Hello everybody, my name is Brotot, and today I'm going to try something a little different from what I normally used to do. I'm going to make reviews for games, such as different games like Destiny, Rainbow Six, Modern Warfare. All types of games that I have personally played, I will make different videos on them and review them. And the game that we are going to review today is Destiny 2. Now, this game I have the most hours in out of any game ever. And that's a big deal because I play video games a lot. I use a lot of my time to play video games and have fun. And the fact that this game takes up most of my time when there's stuff to do is astonishing, which proves that they made a good game. But let's see how good the game actually is and why I spent all my time on it. So, let's start with basics. Destiny 2's launch. There was a bunch of problems with Destiny 2's launch, and we'll get there. But first, let's go over the story. You start off at the last city, where a new enemy is coming in named Ghaul. You have to stop him, you try, you fail, you lose your light, and that's a big deal, because then you can't revive yourself, you can't do anything special. So, you have to go and get your light back. You find a Shard of the Traveler, which is the thing that gives you the light, and you get the light back. You then go on all these different missions, go to different planets, and then finally, you kill Ghaul. After you kill Ghaul, there's really nothing to do until the next DLC comes out, which is what we will go over right now, Curse of Osiris. I would have to say the worst DLC in any game probably I've ever played. The DLC is so bad. There's not much to it. It was really boring, no story, nothing. It was just go in, kill a big bad guy, you meet somebody, that's it. Nothing to it. So that one wasn't that big of a deal. Now we go on to the next one, Warmind. Warmind is a kind of different DLC compared to Curse of Osiris, because now we actually get a good planet. Before we had Mercury, now we have Mars. But this time, unlike Mars in Destiny 1, it's all frozen over. A big new enemy has come out named Xol, who has actual lore on him, which makes him relevant. The old enemy in Curse of Osiris does not have lore, so he wasn't that important. The one in Warmind has a lot of lore, as he is the Hive god. Hive is a type of enemy in the game. The fact that you're fighting one of their gods is very, very important, as they have been probably the most threatening enemy type in the entire game. So, you go through, you kill the boss, that's it. There's nothing huge to it. Those were the stories for each and every DLC and the base game. Now, I would rate the story altogether for all DLCs and the base game a 6 out of 10, as that is the highest I could possibly rate it without even thinking about all the terrible, terrible things about Curse of Osiris. If Curse of Osiris wasn't there, it would probably be a solid 7.5, but since Curse is there, it goes down. And now we can go over the gameplay. The gameplay, it's good. There were definitely some faults. You had the double primary fault, which in Destiny 1, you had a primary, a secondary, and then a heavy. In this game, you had 2 primaries and then a special. No heavy. And that was a big deal because back then you could do tons of different things. In this game, you cannot. So there was definitely some faults there. Crucible, which is the PvP in this game, it was pretty good. There wasn't a bunch of faults. The maps were pretty good. There was just some things about the weapon system and everything that could have been worked on. Now the graphics. They're beautiful. Absolutely stunning for a game that came out more than 3 years ago. Is astonishing. It looked and still does look amazing. The voice acting and dialogue. The voice acting and dialogue definitely could use some work. There wasn't a huge amount of amazing, astonishing voice acting as there is in other games that actually have a well-grounded base story. In this game, most of it is about the gunplay. But the voice acting and dialogue, they're pretty good. And then we get to the difficulty. The game isn't difficult at all. There is no type of difficulty. The only difficulty really was Crucible. So my final review of Destiny 2 plus Curse of Osiris plus Warmind is 6 out of 10. Good, but not amazing. Not great. And then, a year after Destiny 2 came out came Forsaken. By far the best DLC that has ever been introduced into Destiny 2. The gameplay, the story, the graphics, everything was above a 9. So the story is about a good friend, Cayde, who you have known since Destiny 1's launch. He's a Vanguard, but you find out that he dies by one of the past people that you met named Uldren Sov, who plays a big part in Destiny 1, which I will go over in another video. You go on, you avenge Cayde, and you find out that Aldrin didn't do it by himself. He got corrupted by a thing named Riven. The story, all around 10 out of 10. Amazing story. The gameplay, they took out the double primary. They made it primary, secondary, and heavy. And that was a huge step up. As before, it wasn't that good. Now, it's amazing how good the gameplay is. The sniping, the shotgunning, the rocket launching, I guess you could say. All of it is amazing. Then we go to the graphics, 10 out of 10. Reason, they brought a place named the Dreaming City out. Dreaming City has to be the most beautiful place in Destiny 2. It's so vivid, it's so bright, it's so astonishing how amazing it is. The voice acting and dialogue, also 10 out of 10. Easily the best voice acting and dialogue in probably any game I've ever heard, ever. It was amazing, it hit you right in the feels. Everything was just so good about it. Then we go to the difficulty. Difficulty wasn't amazing. It wasn't all there, all here. It wasn't just 10 out of 10. But there were some things that were surprisingly difficult, such as the raid. A raid is a 6-person activity that takes coordination, it takes damage, it takes everything into account, and you have to do it then. The only reason why I say it's actually difficult is because it's the longest raid in Destiny history, and it's just simply difficult. There's so many different strategies, there's so many different mechanics that you have to watch over, and 10 out of 10, probably best raid in Destiny 2. It's amazing, you kill Riven, but then you find out, oh no, it was all a trap. You've come to find out that the Dreaming City is now stuck on a 3-week cycle, over and over and over, which doesn't really affect you as a player, but it affects them, and that goes into lore. But I don't feel like going into a huge, deep lore. You can find My Name is Biff's video if you want to look up the lore on that. So, with Forsaken came 3 small, minor seasons. The 3 seasons were Season of the Forge, Season of the Drifter, and Season of Opulence. I'm going to go over Season of the Forge right now. Season of the Forge story didn't really have much to it. You had 4 forges, which you had to go claim, and that was really it. There's also a raid, but we'll get back to that in the difficulty. The story, I'd say 7 out of 10. Not amazing, it's good, maybe even great, but it's not amazing. The gameplay, it brought in some new weapons, which were really fun, such as the Izanagi's Burden. Izanagi's Burden is an amazing sniper rifle that gives great damage all around. The graphics were 8 out of 10. It didn't bring any amazing, beautiful places into the game, but it brought some really good looking places, such as the raid part. Then we get the voice actor dialogue. It's kind of bare. Not much to it. I give it a 7 out of 10. It's not Forsaken or Destiny 2's main story level, but it's pretty good. Difficulty is 8 out of 10 because of the raid. The raid is also one of my favorite in the game because it's short, it's sweet, but if you get the wrong team, you're screwed. You have to have a team who knows what to do, who's well coordinated, and everything. So I give the difficulty an 8 out of 10 there. It also brought the 4 forges, which if you're low light, they're pretty difficult, but if you're higher light, they're really easy because you can just fly through them. Now we go to the Season of the Drifter. Probably my least favorite season out of the 3 because it's just not that good. The story was pretty good. The gameplay is somewhat okay. It brought Gambit Prime and the Reckoning, which are not good. I hate Gambit so much. It's just my least favorite activity in the game. For good reasons. It's just not a good activity. Then we have the graphics, which are an 8 out of 10, because the places that you explored for the quests and all that for Season of the Drifter, they're pretty good. The voice acting and dialogue. The Drifter has to be one of my favorite characters in the game just because he's funny, so I'd give the voice acting an 8 out of 10. The difficulty, I'd say, it wasn't that difficult. The only reason why it's somewhat difficult is because of the Reckoning and Gambit Prime, because they brought some real difficulty. But other than that, 7 out of 10 for the difficulty. It wasn't a huge, gigantic difficulty leap from Forge to Drifter, but there wasn't much to it. The Season of Opulence. My favorite season out of the 3 that came out with Forsaken. Reason is, there's an enemy / friend, it's a frenemy really, named Calus. Calus is probably my favorite character in the game, just because of the fact that he's just weird. He doesn't make any sense, somewhat. He's random. You fight him as a boss, but he still treats you as a friend and as the chosen one. The story, gave it an 8 out of 10. Gotta say, the new raid that came with it was pretty good. It wasn't 10 out of 10 amazing, but it was pretty good. The gameplay was also 8 out of 10. It brought some good weapons, some good, well-rounded auto rifles, scout rifles, all these different things that were good at the time. It also brought the Menagerie, which was a pretty difficult part of the season. You have to finish a bunch of activities, and then at the end you fight a boss. You get rewards. It's looter shooter logic. The graphics are 8 out of 10, as the places that you go, such as the Leviathan, they're pretty beautiful, pretty good. They might be kind of forgettable, but it isn't really well known as a raid. It really isn't well appreciated and stuff, and as a good reason, because it's not that good of a raid. The voice acting and dialogue, it's okay. I love Callus. Callus's voice actor is always great. He does an amazing job. Other than that, there wasn't any other talking really in that season. And then we get to the difficulty, which is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. As the Menagerie was hard, the raid was pretty hard, but other than that, there wasn't really that much to it. And now we get to the big boy, Shadowkeep. Shadowkeep was a really weird DLC for me, as it brought back some old stuff, and that was great to me, such as Crota from Destiny 1, all these different things from Destiny 1 it brought back. The story, it has to get an 8 out of 10 for me because it brings in the triangles / the pyramids. The pyramids are a huge part of lore for Destiny, as they are the Darkness. The Darkness is the main enemy in Destiny 1 and 2. It will forever be the main villain in Destiny. Now the gameplay was pretty good. It brought in multiple activities. It brought in nightmare hunts. It brought in a new dungeon. It brought in a new raid. It brought in Nightfall the Ordeal, which we'll go back to in difficulty. And all these different things were amazing. So the graphics were 10 out of 10. The Scarlet Keep is an absolutely magnificent place. The moon itself is beautiful. It's just an amazing place that you get to go to and fight bosses, and it's just beautiful. The voice acting dialogue, Eris Morn, which is your ally for this DLC, is pretty good. Her voice actor is amazing. She has some good dialogue. She has to talk to her old fire teammates who died going to fight Crota, which hearing it is kind of distressful. It puts you into a sad mood. For the difficulty, the game brought the Nightfall the Ordeal, the hardest thing in Destiny history, in my opinion, by far. The reason why is because you can go up different difficulties, and the higher the difficulty, obviously the harder it gets. And at the end, it brought Grandmaster difficulty, which is a pretty difficult activity, as you have to coordinate with your team, you have to do all these things. If you die, you restart all the way from the beginning. It is just very difficult. In the Shadowkeep DLC, it brought 3 new seasons as well. It brought Season of Dawn, Season of the Worthy, and Season of Arrivals. Right now we'll go over Season of Dawn. Season of Dawn brought back a fan favorite from the lore named Saint 14, an old Vanguard Titan who mysteriously disappeared and everybody thought he was dead. But, come to find out, Osiris from Curse of Osiris actually came in handy, and he brought him back from the past, and now he is part of the story. The gameplay isn't great. There were some good things, but not a lot of new things. There wasn't really good guns. There wasn't anything extremely special about Season of Dawn. The graphics also get a 7 out of 10 for me, as there wasn't much for me. There wasn't new places or anything. It was just the same old stuff. The voice acting dialogue is 10 out of 10 for me. Saint 14's voice actor is one of the best I've ever heard. His voice actor is amazing. He puts on a good accent. Everything about him is just great. Saint 14 is one of the best characters in the game for me. The difficulty, there wasn't much to it at all, really, so I'd put it at a 7 out of 10. The seasonal activity for that was named the Sundial, and there wasn't much to it. You just kill enemies, the same old same. Now we're on to Season of the Worthy, the worst season out of any season in this game besides Curse of Osiris. The story was bland. There's only one good thing about it, and that was the Felwinter's Lie quest, which puts you in the fields as you find out what happened to the legendary Exo named Felwinter, who was Rasputin's son. Rasputin is also part of Warmind. The gameplay was bare. Nothing new. There was one new activity, or no, multiple activities, but most of them were all boring. Same old stuff, repeated content. The graphics, 6 out of 10, nothing much to it at all. There are no new places, nothing. Voice acting and dialogue, it was kind of bare. Nothing to it. I mean, some same old crap. Difficulty, nothing there, 6 out of 10. It was the worst season in Destiny history, in my opinion. I'd honestly say worse than Curse of Osiris. Then we come to the Season of Arrivals, my favorite out of the 3 of Shadowkeep. The story, it finally brought the pyramids into play. While Shadowkeep hinted on the pyramids, Season of Arrivals fully brought on the pyramids, as now they are actually at the different planets taking them over, which is just amazing to me. There wasn't much to the season besides a dungeon called Prophecy, which will go into gameplay. The gameplay was good. Prophecy's mechanics was pretty good. There wasn't much to it, but it was still a really good and really fresh activity for us. The graphics were 10 out of 10. Prophecy is my favorite dungeon as it's beautiful. It's amazing dungeon by a long shot. The voice acting and dialogue were pretty good. Eris, Morn, and the Drifter are now somewhat teammates. They are now talking. And then the difficulty, the only reason why I put it at a 8 out of 10 is because it's somewhat difficult. The Prophecy dungeon is my favorite because of its difficulty. It has some good difficulty along with some good balance to it. The bosses are pretty difficult in it, and it also has some pretty good lore. What is my final review of the game? I put it at a solid 8.5 out of 10. There are some good faults, there are some good things about it, but there are also some big faults to it which need to be addressed, such as the cheaters, such as many different things, which I didn't go over because I didn't feel like they were important to what this game is about. Stuff like that is just faults. And we didn't even go into huge parts of the game, as some stuff just isn't necessary in my opinion. We got some bad things, but we also have some amazing things about this game. It's just such mixed feelings, but the reason why I have such a high number of hours on this game is because it hits home. This game has been with me since I started playing video games. Destiny 1 was probably one of my first video games I actually ever binged and, grinded. And the fact that Destiny 2 has some stuff that you can also still do in it to this day, and they're still releasing content, is just astonishing. It's amazing to me. This level of work they're putting into the game makes it to where it's just an amazing game in general. So my final review is 8.5 out of 10. You can leave your opinions down in the comments. You can do whatever, but just know that I think this game has some faults, big faults. But the game all around is an amazing game still, and you should 100% play it. It's free. I'll leave a download link in the description. Everything about this game is special to me. So you can go play it, you can do whatever you want, but thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.